Okay. Hello and good evening, everyone. Good afternoon. We're very excited to have everyone here with us today, and we're very excited to have a wonderfully distinguished guest, the CEO of NEOM, Mr. Nadhmi Al-Nasr. Thank you very much for being here with us today. We're very excited to have you to have a very exciting and interesting discussion. Mr. Nadhmi, you are the Chief Executive Officer of NEOM. You are one of the NEOM is one of the most important projects in Saudi Arabia's Vision 2030. You are leading the efforts to shape the new future based on innovation and sustainability. So, Mr. Nadhmi, I think we really want to know maybe first, as young people, I'm very interested about hearing a little bit on the young people of NEOM today.
First, thank you for giving me the opportunity to come here and meet a young generation and some little bit older generation. But also I want to thank MISC. As a Saudi citizen, I am extremely proud of the creation of such an institution. You guys are also changing the map of the kingdom in a very settled way. And thanks for the institution. I want to talk maybe a little bit about leadership in principle. And as we all know, leadership is different styles, and people choose and fit their own style. But I believe, regardless of the style of leadership, there are principles that have to be in it for leaders to lead and to be leaders. One is passion. I mean, passion to me is the number one requirement for a leader to be a leader, to lead, to drive. And the drive is next level with, passion. I would say next to that is leading by example, because especially the new generation, young generation, are very critical. I mean, I have three daughters, one boy, they're all in their 20s, and I know how they feel and how they respond and communicate with their own views regardless. And if they see things are not what they expect, they will speak up. And that is a great concept in the young generation here. So passion, drive, courage. The end of the day, leaders make decisions. And many of us have to make tough decisions. And if you are not into the making these decisions, it's very difficult for you to lead. And tough decisions can go right or left. Tough decisions meaning you may be making a decision that's proven to be not the best decision. And then you have to live with it and move on. And these moments in any human being are tough. It takes much of your energy and your soul after, and then how to deal with it and then move on is another chapter of leadership. I want to actually, I don't know if I'm answering your question, but I'm moving with this. And I remember my early days after graduation. And of course, I went to Aramco. Aramco is our mother in a way. If you are from the Eastern Province, you are Aramcan. Yeah. So as a chemical engineer, I applied to Aramco. I got a job. And then the employment gave me a piece of paper. They say, here is your boss, guy called George Brown, and you go and find him. He's somewhere here. And so anyhow, I took this piece of paper. I spent maybe half of the day. I couldn't find this guy. So finally, there was a huge construction site, building high-rise buildings. And George was there in one of these cubicles. I walked into his office, and this guy scared the hell of me with the way he looks. He's like a rednecks in the U.S. So I gave him this piece of paper, and I was so reluctant to say, this is not what I applied for. I'm a chemical engineer, and I should be in a refinery, not building housing. He didn't even look at me. He signed a piece of paper. He threw it in my face. He said, you go to the next room. Your boss is there. I just said, what is this? So 10 days later, I came back to George. I said, there is something wrong with my employment. This is not a chemical engineering. So when I walked into his office, he had his feet on the table. His shirt has one button only, his chest, and everything was scary. So he moved his legs on the floor. He came close to me, maybe centimeters away from me, and he said, what did you say you are? I said, I'm a chemical engineer. He said, what made you say you are a chemical engineer? I said, I just get a degree and joining Aramco. He said, oh, just a minute. Getting a degree is one thing. Becoming a chemical engineer is a long way. So he said, do you know what you are? You are a big zero.
Wow.
And you have to understand that. If you don't start realizing that you are a big zero, you will get nowhere. So get out from this office, go back to the site, never show me your face. Go and learn. What does it take to establish a building? What kind of concrete to use? What temperature of the water it has to be? What's the pressure? So he asked me all these questions. Of course, I had no clue. So he said, go back and learn. Learning is what's going to get you somewhere in life. And one day, you might be the president of Aramco. There's no limit for where the growth is. You will be a leader one day or not. But you have to drive your own leadership skills and everything. Other than that, you will not get anywhere. I have to say, that moment of my career changed me forever. I realized that George was damn right. So I cannot argue with him. Of course, I became his closest friend. He was my best mentor. And then he saw me growing in Aramco and everything. I think this point, I'm just bringing it up as an example, is leaders or leadership does not come by being given a leadership, by learning, by appreciating where you stand, and by appreciating that it's a long way. And when you make it to be a leader of any type, you have to understand the responsibility of the leadership. It's a huge responsibility because you're leading people and you're making decisions on people. So that's my first remarks on leadership based on my experience and learning.
Absolutely. No, that was an absolutely wonderful story. And I think everyone sitting in the crowd here is learning so much, about you first, but also about, leadership is not just getting a piece of paper that says you've studied this. And learning takes so much more than just textbook. It's actually experiencing and experimenting until you get to where you need to be. And I think that is absolutely wonderful. And since you mentioned a young Nadhmi, can I maybe dig a little deeper and you can share with us a story about what are some of the things that happened to you as a younger person that made you who you are today and led you to lead one of the biggest projects, not just in Saudi, but in the world?
Young Nadhmi, I still believe I am a young Nadhmi.
But younger.
Well, no, that's a good question, actually. It's life, really. It's life we go through and what we learn from our own experience and more importantly, from our mistakes. Mistakes make us much more than success. And if we think of it that way, we get a lot of lessons because we make a hell of a lot of mistakes. So nobody not making a mistake. I believed in my career that first I spent most of my life in project management. And project management is a great school to learn from. But the secret in project management is you have to start any project, including NEOM, by the way, with the belief that there is nothing in life impossible at all. I'm a believer that the word impossible should not exist, and we should not even fear away from it. And I'm not saying this as if I'm just saying it for the sake of words. I am a believer that there is nothing impossible in life. What it takes to change impossible to possible is the belief that we can go over it. The belief that, if I believe in something, I will move on and make it happen with my team. We have to exert all the efforts to make it happen. So I will get you a story. I mean, since you asked me for a story. There was a field in Aramco called Sheba. Sheba is a field that was discovered in the middle of the empty quarter. And you all know the empty quarter, at least you've heard of it. This field was discovered in 1968 by Aramco, the old Aramco, when it was owned and run by ExxonMobil and Chevron. And the oil field was not touched. We knew there is oil, so that was discovered. Because every time Aramco tried to move on with it, they feared because in the middle of nowhere, 500 kilometers, the closest road to get to it, in between sand dunes of 300-meter high. When we decided to drive to it, it's a 6-day drive. So it's not a small thing. So anyhow, 1995, ExxonMobil sent a proposal to our king at the time, King Fahd. And they said, you have this oil field discovered ages ago, and Aramco is not up to it. And this is our offer. We can do it with $5 billion and 5 years, which was a record. I mean, it takes a lot. So the whole thing came to Aramco, and Aramco was in a position where, well, either we beat this equal or ExxonMobil will take it. So to make a long story short, management in Aramco met, and then they said, what do we answer? And they all came to conclude that we say we can do it, equal to the offer. So anyhow, the thing came to Aramco, and Aramco moved on with it. I was chosen to be the head of that project. So we started with this offer, 5 years, $5 billion. To make a long story short, we finished that project 3 years, and the total cost was $2.3 billion.
Wow.
So how did we do it? And I can tell you, we had 55 engineers, 50 Saudi young engineers, and 5 non-Saudi engineers. And I was the oldest in the team. The rest were all young, so it's not experienced. They were beginners. That was an impossible mission by the whole world oil industry. What made us make it is we took it as a challenge, and we thought out of the box. We went crazy. How can we beat the hell of this schedule and cost? We basically worked with the rest of the world It wasn't only us. And the day that we believed we are reaching the completion where oil has to be flowing from Sheba, these young engineers, and now they are the leaders of Aramco, these young engineers, the drive they had in them, the belief that they had, the passion, the belief that they are to deliver this, went against all the impossibility that the world believed doing it in 5 years was an impossible mission. That's what it takes to convert impossible to possible. Not only the knowledge, not only the experience, which is a must. It's that drive when you have a belief and a passion in something, you can do the impossible.
Honestly, Mr. Nadhmi, that was a beautiful story and beautifully told as well. I would like to circle back to something you said at the beginning. You said that, you talked about mistakes. And I was wondering, for as a young person, it's important to, in your development as a young person, you need to make mistakes. But I think we always often wonder, what is the margin of error? Or what is the margin of mistakes we're allowed to make as we learn and grow in our careers?
Well, I'm not sure if it's a matter of a margin. It's a matter of we have to accept living with the mistakes. We have to first take aside our ego, because what prevents us from realizing the mistakes is the egos. I'm part of it too, so I'm not just describing the others. It hurts as a human being when a mistake happens, how you deal with it. I mean, the first moments. And that's okay as a leader. And then after reflecting on it, you have to accept that mistakes happened. How do we deal with it? How do we move from this to the next step? And when you do that with your team together in a room, you just said, oh, this happened, and you know what we need to do, and you look, and I look at the faces of my team, I feel I am safe. That moment of looking to the faces of my team, who few of them are here in this room, that gives me the confidence that this mistake we had, we're going to over it stronger and better. So it's not a personal thing. So it's that fear of saying, oh, we made a mistake. And by the way, I learned this the hard way. Many times, many moments in my career, especially when I was much, much younger, you just cannot accept that a mistake happened. And so that's how you go through it and live with it. And we all are proud at the end of the day. And I can assure you, so far we made a lot of mistakes in NEOM. So, I mean, we're hiding them maybe for sure. but looking back, we feel we are much stronger. Honestly, stronger and more confident.
Absolutely. So do you see that making a mistake early on is better than doing something for a long time and then making mistakes at the end?
Well, first of all, we have to realize and accept we make mistakes through all our life. I think the mistakes are different when you are at a younger age than when you are not a younger age anymore. And if you are also in a leadership position, and also the size and the implication of the mistakes are different. But to me, it's all the same, and we just have to accept it and become stronger. And by the way, mistakes bring the whole team together. Long term, that's what happens. The team realize that we made mistakes and how we can fix and move on.
Absolutely, and absolutely beautifully said. We've talked about, and maybe we presented to you as well, our concept of generation transformation that we brought here to the World Economic Forum. And one thing we were talking about in terms of generations are values. So, what are the values that you carry with you that makes you who you are and that pushes you to do better, whether in NEOM or even with your children as well?
With my children, that's another story. I can tell you, I love them all, and I mean, they know I'm having an interview. I told them that I'm going for a short interview, and I'm happy it's not broadcasted, so you're not going to make a joke about what I'm saying. But values in general are must to have in our life and in our business. I would say the first value that we all have to, at least I carry all the time, is transparency. I mean, we many times in our business at a leadership position, um, you argue with yourself how much you want to be yourself and speaking the facts and being transparent with your team or with the rest of the people you deal with. Um, Anything less than full transparency, it's just going to color all your discussion or all the arguments you will have. Second is, as a leader, I would go with a very normal statement, but it means a lot, which is lead by example. And if you don't lead by example, no matter what you say, you will never become a leader that you can lead people with. You cannot ask your team to do things and then you're not doing it. You cannot expect them, for example, at work to come on time or come early and then you are the last one to show up. I mean, all of these little things makes the difference, because when your team looks up to you and deep inside they say, I don't see this in my boss or in my leader. You can lead, you can be assertive, but you are not getting that thing to your team. Uh, Another thing on values is you need to be fair when you deal with people. Fairness is very critical because, other than being fair with everybody, and sometimes fairness does not mean you have to be nice with the person. Fairness, sometimes you need to be honest and very transparent of what you tell the person. That's fairness because you're giving the true feedback to your people. You cannot just avoid conveying these messages to your people. So these are the values we carry.
These are wonderful values. Thank you very much. And I know we are running out of time and we're having such a wonderful conversation. But maybe last two questions, if you allow me. If you would go back in time to a younger version of yourself, what would you tell that version? And the other question would be, what would you tell your children and the young person, people that you work with, and the people who are watching us today?
Well, if I go back to, let's say, the young Nadhmi, the young Nadhmi who is a friend of George Brown, 1978, I was maybe 23 years old, completely, not no experience, no knowledge, good student maybe, but that's it. Uh, I would, look deeper to what my first 5 years in life is to be, and how I can impact and influence my first 5 years career. I took George's comments, of course, and I went back and became a very hard worker and no complaints about what I am doing and all of that. But I would have pointed a roadmap for me that I wanted to drive the first 5 years of my career. I'm not complaining about my career actually, but I wanted to. I would like to when I were to go back, I wanted to own my career, to own my roadmap, and of course I would never have a full ownership of my roadmap because others drive the roadmap for me, but I had to have something in it myself. That part I did not do. Luckily, I'm doing well and I progressed well and no complaint and being part of NEOM as a member of NEOM is an honor to me. So I'm happy with the career. So that's something different I would do if I go back to the young Nadhmi, to the younger Nadhmi. Yeah.
And what would you say? And that was actually absolutely beautiful. And I think that's a lot of the young people in the room are taking notes and thinking, okay, how can I plan to own my career and to own what is my next step as well? So I think that was beautifully said. Thank you. And I think just the last question, what would you tell as an advice from somebody who's leading one of the biggest projects and as a person who's been through so many extraordinary experiences? What is an advice that you will give the young audience that's watching today, but also everyone who's watching you today?
Well, many things come to my mind, but one challenge for leaders or young leaders to be older leaders and bigger leaders, you need to work hard to take ego apart. Ego is an issue as we all grow into positions and titles and all of these. Sometimes egos get into the way, and then you are not seen the same way you were seen by your team. You need to be part of the team most of the time and not the leader of the team. And sometimes this means you just go around, you maybe sometime argue with somebody, come back, and you need to be seen as not somebody who's hiding behind a big table and a big position and big name tag and all of that, because that distance you from your team. So ego is a big problem, and people have to really work hard not to get into that era, because we've seen people who this get into them and then they did not go beyond where they deserve. And they have the capability and they have everything. Leader people have to be not only respected, they need to be as much as they can to be loved. I'm working hard to be loved by my team, at least half a day a week. So, and I'm averaging well, 5 days or 7 days. One day my team in total, they can say, we love you. I never ask them how they feel about the 6 days in the week. And in a way, maybe I don't care because the end of the day, we all happy. We all go celebrating the end of every week when we deliver, when we are driving our own self and each other, when we have disagreements and we then go with the decision to go. That feel of success, that great feeling of delivering what a team of NEOM, actually, I want to say this, with this hugely most challenging project in history of a humanity, when we all as a team fighting and arguing and all of that, and end of the week we look at what we have progressed. Who cares about loving each other? Loving each other is going to happen. I don't worry about that, because professionally professionally, we are on a mission to deliver something. We are different styles, we are different ways of doing business, we are different leadership styles. But together, we celebrate that moment when we are driving the most complex project ever in history. And we say, wow, we're moving. That moment, that feel, worth everything in life. We forget about our disagreements and all of that, and we celebrate internally. Falling in love passionately with the mission you have and together integrated, that's worth the whole world.
That was absolutely beautiful, and I completely love it. And I know a lot of your team members here absolutely have, are absolutely fond of you. Thank you so much for your time. I know I see them here, and they're all smiling and tearing up and getting emotional.
We have a talk after this.
Thank you so much, Mr. Nadhmi, for this wonderful session. Thank you very much for sharing your experience and insights and values. This has absolutely been wonderful. And we all, as a young Saudi, myself, and I know a lot of other people around the world, are looking really at NEOM for hope and inspiration. And that, inshallah, with your leadership, we all look forward to it. Thank you so much. And we appreciate your time. It's been a true honor.
I want to end, thank you for your words. I want to end speaking to this group here and sharing with them what NEOM is all about and why we are proud of NEOM. Because NEOM is not a project. NEOM is a game changer to the world. NEOM is not a Saudi project. We are executing it in Saudi Arabia. NEOM is a gift from Saudi Arabia to the world to say, together, all of us, regardless of where we all come from, we will take this vision, and years to come, we will look back and we will say, we have changed the world to better. And that is a statement that will come from a team that is today comes from 84 nationalities. Wow. So NEOM is not a project, and that's what I want to leave you with. NEOM is a vision that will change the world. Thank you.
Thank you so much.